Brewers could have taken all 4 of these games with the Cubs, but I'm not going to get greedy. Man, I'll take 3 of 4 every single day of the week. We'll talk about that and the Brewers. Who's going to catch the Brewers, if anybody, in the division? We'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You know, the Brewers are just a flat-out good team. You know, it's not, I hear some of the national pundits say, well, the Brewers are off to a good start. Here we are, June 1st coming up here. And no, it's better than a good start. It is a good start, but it's not a lucky start or anything. They're a good team. Resilient, bouncing back from all these injuries. I don't think the Brewers are getting enough credit. Well, they never do nationally. They never do anyway nationally about just how resilient this team has been, okay, this season, facing all the injuries. This was the New York Yankees, and they had all their guys down. It's all you'd hear on MLB Network, ESPN, or whatever. All you'd hear is, oh, geez, the New York Yankees, look what they're doing, and they got all these injuries. Brewers, you know, they just keep winning games. And, you know, I'd taken 3 of 4 from the Cubs. How cool was that? Yeah, they could have swept. They were a blown call away from second. Willy Adames was safe at second base on Tuesday. And if somebody gets an RBI base hit right after that, Brewers sweep this series. But you know what? They won 3 of 4, and the Cubs now 5.5 out. In fact, they're not even in second place anymore. We'll get to all that coming up here. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. The show is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets. Guaranteed $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. Do the Brewers ever lose these midweek afternoon games? I don't think they've lost an afternoon game during the week this year. You know, I think there's been a couple of times where they've maybe dropped a couple of games, but I mean, home, I don't think they've lost a home midweek game this year. I know they've won 10 of their last 13 home games after a 5-7 start so far overall, but the Brewers just going out there, and it's funny. I saw the line in this game move up. It was like 115, 116, 117, 122. It was kept on moving up at game time. And I'm like, man, somebody knows something that the Brewers are going to win today. And sure enough, Gary Sanchez homers, delivers the big blow, and a 6-4 win over the Cubs. My name is Chuck Freeman, longtime sports talk show host in the state of Wisconsin. Good to have you along. Google, Spotify, Apple. You get this podcast on all the major downloads. Go to YouTube, search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. I have to apologize for the last day. My motherboard and my computer blew up. You don't want to hear. I mean, I'm not the most tech-savvy guy in the world. And finally, I called a fellow radio friend of mine who knows a lot. And I texted him, and he said, unplug this, do this. And sure enough, it was on. It was game on. Thank you very much, Keith, for helping me out here. You the man. So he helped me get back on the air here and be able to provide. I was thinking I was going to have to go to the computer store, spend a few $100 or whatever, get a new computer, because all my information, you know, your lifeblood is on your computer. So relieved that I got that done, but it has been a hassle. All right. The Brewers, take 3 of 4 in this series. And coming up here, we'll talk more about who you think is going to be in the race. Who's going to challenge the Brewers? Because the Brewers right now are on top, and people are trying to, challenge them. But I still say the Brewers are the best team in baseball. We'll get to that coming up here as well. Sanchez did it again. And how about Murphy in the post-game press conference today? He goes, he kind of put it in our face because, Sanchez, it was like the Brewers got him to hit left-handers, but left-handers, right-handers, Sanchez hit it off a right-hander. Back to what I was saying earlier in the week. I don't care what the numbers are or whatever. A lefty versus lefty, I want Terang in there. Lefty versus lefty, I want Frelick in there. Sanchez has the ability to come off the bench, sit for 5 games, come off the bench, and unload a 3-run home run. In this case today, a 2-run home run. That's the kind of pro that guy is. Okay. And I know some of you were disturbed early in the season when Sanchez got off to the rough start. He's still batting like 230, but he's got 6 home runs. The guy's not in the lineup for punch base hits. Okay. He's out there to deliver the big blow, which this lineup needs. And yeah, they overpaid for him a little bit, $7 million. I would have liked to use that money elsewhere, but as long as we got him, let's use him and let's throw him out there against right-handers if need be. Now his playing time could get cut back again because Rhys Hoskins is due to come back very soon here, possibly this weekend. We'll get to that. But Gary Sanchez, I loved him with the Yankees, bounced back with the Padres last year. And if I didn't have to look at the salary, I would have loved him. But I always look at in baseball and sports in general, you always look at the salary, think, okay, they're spending all this money on this guy. That means they're not going to be able to spend some money maybe in other areas as well. But, it is what it is. But Sanchez has delivered a couple of times in late innings off the top of my head that I could think of. In Pittsburgh off Aroldis Chapman when he hit that Oppo home run, and then going Yahtzee today. And by the way, go to the internet and hear the call by Jeff Levering on the home run. I do love listening to I listen to Brewer broadcast anyway. We all do. But, on the post-game show, on the wrap-up show that Jeff or, whoever's on the call of the game does, they always play the highlights. And even when I was a little kid, back when it was Bob Uecker and Merle Harmon doing the games back in the 70s, if you missed the game, or even if you listened to the game, because games weren't always on TV back then, you'd want to hear the post-game show because you'd always hear if they won. Now, if they lose, I don't think the Brewers do if they lose, but if they win, you always heard the game-winning highlights, the home run calls. And, so I was getting out of doing the Dennis Krause show. I was on the Sports Roundtable. I call it the Dennis Krause show, but it's called the Spectrum News 1 Roundtable. Me and Homer were on the show today. I was coming out, got in my car. I didn't see on my phone that Sanchez did hit the home run right where we were taping the show. And got out of my car and heard Levering's call. And I think it's got to be I'm sure it's on the internet somewhere, but it was a great call of Sanchez's home run. So with that said, the Brewers continue to roll. I thought Colin Ray again. We talk so much, and I get a lot of questions. What are the Brewers going to do as far as spending money? Are they going to go up there and use some of their resources? Are they going to trade some guys to get some pitching? Man, they're holding it together so much with their pitching. I don't know how they're doing it. And I thought eventually this pitching staff would fade away. But I'm telling you, guys like Colin Ray are bouncing back from mediocre to bad starts. You got Bryce Wilson in there. You got Freddie doing what he's doing. And of course, Robert Gasser. We're liking the Josh Trader move a little bit more these days. And I see some of you coming after me about Joey Ortiz and the Corbin Burns move. Somebody out of nowhere tagged me and said, well, Chuck Freeman still doesn't like the Corbin Burns trade. With George, Ortiz is off to a great start for these two months. But I like to let it play out a little bit. I'm letting it play out a little bit. Okay, let's let it all play out. We're riding him. He's good. He's been very good. Obviously, as a starting third baseman, he looks real good. I'd like my third baseman to muscle up and hit more home runs. Obviously, I like my corners guys to be, big boppers in there. But Ortiz has been fine defensively, offensively, certainly coming up with big hits and all that. Being thrust in that role, been very, very good. So. So far the trade, I would love to have Corbin Burns in this trade, but if you're talking about Joey Ortiz, I wasn't happy with what they got back at a return several months ago, and to this day, I'm still like, man, I wish we had Corbin Burns. I really do. But Ortiz through 2 months so far has looked dynamite. That he does, he does. But I'm telling you, I still would. If I had to do that trade again, I'd take Corbin back because I think at the end of the day, they need another ace on this roster. But, back to what I was saying about trading, are they going to go after somebody? They aren't giving away anybody in their farm system of any substance. I really think if the Brewers do make a trade, and this is not going to be for a while, we're still about a month and a half away from that, maybe a month away from, seriously talking about it. But if they do, it's going to be like a Carlos Santana move. We're going to give away a prospect, and we'll get maybe some 10-year veteran. Okay. It'll be one of those deals. Okay. Maybe some aging veteran. I don't see them going out there and making a play for anybody's hot rental out there. So I just don't see the Brewers doing it. There's no way they're giving away any farm hands for that. But, they're hanging in there. They continue to patch things together. And if you want to say manager of the year, and again, these postseason awards, I'm not real fond of them because I don't care about MVPs or postseason awards really anymore, or all-star appearances, because we've had enough of those with our sports teams without championships. So if you want to go down that road with all the injuries, and if the Brewers win the NL Central, Pat Murphy would have to be manager of the year. Would have to. How about that? Counsell, who went to the playoffs all those years, certainly deserved manager of the year a couple of times, didn't get it. How about if Murphy got it this year? With all the injuries and patching things together, what that guy coming on the heels of what Counsell did here, absolutely. Without question about Murphy is right now my leading candidate for manager of the year. But Colin Ray was really aggressive on the mound and terrific. Hudson did give up that 2-run home run in the 7th inning. Hey, Brian Hudson has been so good, but he's a vulture. He sticks around. He gets the win. He's now 4-0. Adames was amazing in this series. All the big hits he came up with, the home runs, even the double the other night. I'm going to call it a double. He was throwing out at second base. But Willy Adames was certainly the man. Blake Perkins starting to turn it around a little bit. I think we're just going to have to realize that Blake Perkins is a streaky hitter, a guy who is going to get on a little bit of a roll. And once he's on that roll, get on the train and let's ride him. Let's ride the train. So Blake Perkins is that kind of guy. He's going to get on a little bit of a streak, and you got to play him and ride him out. That's what I say. So Blake Perkins starting to show some good cuts at the plate as well after disappearing for a better part of a month, maybe more than that. Talk about Rhys Hoskins possibly coming back. We're going to get to that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook for a reason. It's winner take all in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, all that. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book because of offers like this, the payouts and all that. It's all good. Hey, they're a national brand. They're a dependable brand, and you know all about them. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Go to FanDuel.com. Look at the odds and check them out for yourself. And the Brewers got the White Sox coming to town this weekend. I'm sure the Brewers will be heavy favorites, but got to admit, a couple of times this weekend, or this past week, I did take the Brewers. I've been riding the Brewers. I'll be honest. I've been riding the Brewers a lot this year, especially a couple of times when they've got into a 2 or 3 game losing skid playing them. I'm not giving you any advice out there, but man, the Brewers have been a pretty good play so far this year. And how about this week? So if you've been going on the Brewers this year on a consistent basis, there's no doubt you're getting plus money because the Brewers, they get absolutely no respect in Vegas either. All right. Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman, your host here on Locked On Brewers. Get us on Google, Spotify, Apple, all the major downloads. Get us on YouTube, our growing YouTube page. Search Locked On Brewers. Hit the subscribe button. Hit that little bell in the corner. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome to Locked On Brewers studio. I love it. I love stepping into the studio at night. If you're watching us on YouTube, I do. I love coming in here. It just reminds me, well, if I look back there, it reminds me of a lot of disappointment of all those programs I got out of there, my childhood of all the disappointing teams. But teams that gave us a lot of fun to watch all year long. But I step in here and, man, I'm telling you, ever since I've been doing this Locked On Brewers for about a year and a half now, there's been nothing but success with these guys. Yeah, postseason bow out last year, but I'm telling you, if they get some of these out, how good this team's going to be when they get these guys healthy. Rhys Hoskins, you add Mitchell to the depth of the outfield, okay? Add him out there. I wonder with the depth of the outfield, maybe that's one of the pieces they use to make a trade for somebody. I don't know. Who knows? But I think we need to see more on Garrett Mitchell to see how good this guy really is. He's got to stay healthy. That's the key. He's got to stay healthy. But Rhys Hoskins, Pat Murphy talked about that. Could see him this weekend. Could see the big fella at first base. That would be great. That would be great. So Rhys can resume his path to hitting 35 to 40 home runs. Now with the injury and missing all these games, that might cut into it a little bit, my prediction on that. But still, the big fella, get him back in the lineup this weekend and take 2 or 3 from the White Sox. Yes, 2 or 3. I know the White Sox have lost 8 in a row, and they're bad. But to be honest with you, I just look to take 2 or 3 from the series. And Bryce Trang was talking about that in the locker room after the game today. We're talking about the postseason, the divisional race and all that. And he says, well, we just got to keep going up, take 2 or 3 and win every series. I mean, it's easier said than done, but winning every series. Brewers did it last weekend against Boston. Took the first 2 games, lost on Sunday here against the Cubs. Took 3 of 4. And against the White Sox. Yeah, the White Sox got the ability to rise up and win a game. That's the way baseball is. But if the Brewers can win 2 of 3 in this series, they have Philadelphia coming up here a week from this weekend. That'll be an interesting test for these guys in Philly. Wish it was a home game there, but that'll be in Philly. All right. But Rhys is coming back. Who do you think is going to give the Brewers a run in this division? I was asked on Spectrum News 1 today, which aired tonight around the state of Wisconsin on their roundtable show, if I think the Brewers are going to win the division. Dennis just asked me, I think the Brewers are going to win the division? I said, yes, I really believe they're going to win. They're the best team in this division. They're better than the Cubs. And I know when I said earlier this week that Craig Counsell would have been a fool not to take that $8 million. Well, it's because here's why, and some of you came at me, said, well, look at the Brewers. They're still in first place. The Cubs, I think, have a lot of potential. They've been mismanaged in a lot of different ways. They've made a lot of dumb moves. They should be better than they are. Teams like the Mets should be better with all those resources, should be better than they are. Those are 2 examples of teams who do very little with a lot. They have a lot of potential. Now, the Brewers do a lot with very little. And you're going to say, well, there's no championships. I get that. But still, based on what the Mets have done here the last couple of years, okay, and the Brewers and the resources between the 2 teams, the only thing is that gives the big market teams and it gives the union the reason to say, well, look at the Mets are struggling, and the Brewers with this without a salary cap and all that, they're finding a way to win division titles. God, I hate when I hear that. It just makes me cringe. But who is going to challenge the Brewers in the race? The Brewers, I think, Dennis asked me, do I think the Brewers are going to win the division? I said yes. We closed the show with that. I really believe in my heart and heart they're going to win the division. Are they going to win a World Series this year? Well, you know how it is. The hottest team in October gets the job done. Didn't expect Arizona to go as far as they did last year, but we'll see. All right. So I threw it out to you guys out there. And by the way, Frank the Tank was at the game today. I knew who he was. I put it out on Twitter. I said, Frank the Tank? Why is he throwing out the first pitch? And he was out there. He's a Mets fan. But I just thought it was an odd choice. But nonetheless, Jackson says, it'll be interesting to see how they do against Philadelphia coming up. They've got a good offense. It'll be interesting to see what the Brewer offense shows up against them. Absolutely. That Philly series could be a good tester. Maybe we might go out there for that series. Yeah, maybe. I've been to Philadelphia for an NBA game for the Bucks playoffs, but I've not been out to see the Brewers in Philly. Maybe that's the weekend I go. I'll make a spontaneous trip, do Locked On Brewers out there. Let's see. Josh says, I think we woke up the Cardinals when they played in Milwaukee. Yeah, the Cardinals have turned. The Cardinals probably hit rock bottom in Milwaukee a couple of weeks ago, but since then they've turned it around. They're playing some great baseball. Yeah, that would be my threat. They got the two guys at the corners. Those two star Goldschmidt is just. I got that horrible start. Began to warm up a little bit in Milwaukee a couple of weeks ago, but I still like Goldschmidt. I thought that guy. I still think that guy is just amazing. And Arenado at third base. I know he at times has looked bad at the plate, but those are two stars. JP says the Cubs are going to challenge the Brewers. Their pitching is good enough. All right. Who are you most worried about with the Milwaukee Brewers? Who are you most worried about that will give the Brewers a run? Reggie says the Brewers. Mike says themselves. In other words, the Brewers can't get. Yeah, and I get that too. If the Brewers beat themselves and can't get out of their own way, or injuries eventually take the toll on this team, I think there's such a little hesitation that we think injuries are eventually going to take the toll on the Brewers. Keep thinking that's going to drop, but you know what? The Brewers just keep going out there and winning. Ben says the Cardinals and Cubs will give them a run. Todd says the Cardinals. Trevor says the Brewers. Wow, 5, 6, 7, 8 people have said the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers are the team that are going to catch the Milwaukee Brewers because the Brewers have a tendency to not get out of their own way. Just hope that offense shows up in time in October. The offense has been very good here in the last couple of days. 10 runs Wednesday night, 6 runs today. How about that? The Brewers just kept bouncing back every time they needed a big hit. They got it today. We're coming right back here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman, your host. Stitch Fix. I get Stitch Fix. You have clothes delivered to your house, wardrobe that is styled for you by a professional stylist. They help you find new, on-trend favors that'll work for you. You give the stylist your size, your style, your budget preferences. You order the boxes you want, no subscription or whatever, and they'll send you 5 pieces just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations, pro styling advice, all that. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today. If you have problems picking out clothes, especially you single guys out there like me, you bachelors out there, stitchfix.com/MLB. You need help in developing your wardrobe. You get $20 off your first fix. Stitchfix.com/MLB, $20 off your first fix. And you lot of bachelors out there, and I see you guys tell me you're home watching these games, getting home at night, watching games from a hard days of work. Hey man, if you have problems putting together a wardrobe, Stitch Fix can help you out. Stitchfix.com/lockedon. I should say /MLB. Stitchfix.com/MLB for $20 off. Stitchfix.com/MLB must redeem within 7 days of sign up. Locked On Brewers, down the stretch we come. Here we say the White Sox are in town here for weekend series. That was a 3-24 they got off to. They've lost 8 in a row. They had been playing better for a little bit there. Lately, though, they've hit the skids, losing a lot of home games, getting swept last weekend by Baltimore. They're in last of the division. Worst team in baseball. No doubt about it. Worst team in baseball. But you still got to go. Still professional baseball team. And in the locker room, the guys were asked about this today, too. It's like, well, you're coming off a high-profile series with the Cubs. How are you going to handle the White Sox? Now, they say the same lip service. Well, you know what? We got to go out there and be able to handle these guys and, give a professional approach. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the way baseball is. Baseball is a sport where you can't be lackadaisical at the plate. Otherwise, you're going to get burned, okay? You don't go up to the plate. And, there's other sports where you could take a play off or 2 or 3 or a game off. We've seen it. Baseball, you can't do that. You got to go up to the plate, man. You better be on your alert and be ready to go. Okay? Be ready to go. So that's baseball's a little different. But go out there, play hard. You'll take 2 or 3 in this series against the White Sox. You are the better team. Somebody asked me about Bob Uecker. Bob is not working. He was not on the call today. Day after night games, apparently he's not doing. Day after night games, he's 90 years old. The fact that, we still got you doing games for us is incredible. So, hey, we'll take him once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever fashion we get Bob Uecker, we'll take it. So, yeah, he is not working day after night games. But just like he's a catcher. He's a catcher. Sometimes catchers don't catch 2 day games after night games. Bob done that same role. He is not doing day games after night games. That's going to do it for the show today. Thanks for all your emails. And again, I apologize for being a little late here. Computer problems, but appreciate your understanding. Trying to figure out all that. Brewers, a season high 10 games over the 500 mark in the last 5 years. In the last 5 years, the Brewers against the Cubs are 47-34. 47-34. They keep battling. They keep winning. They bounce back from adversity. Willy Adames is heating up. And we talked about Christian. I mentioned Christian in this broadcast. Yeah, Christian, they need everybody. They need Christian Yelich to do his thing. But Willy Adames starting to heat up in this homestand. Let's keep it going against the White Sox for that road trip next weekend. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. You get us on Google, Spotify, Apple, and all the major downloads. Go to YouTube, search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode. Please follow me on Twitter, Chuck Freeman, Freimund. Have yourself a great weekend, everybody.